Hi, this is Keisha. Again, I want to discuss the topic of unconditional love with you. I realize that while the last message I talked about had to do with primarily women and hurting women at that, but I also realize that there are a lot of you men out there that are hurting. And the topic of unconditional love doesn't have to do with just women, but it also involves men as well. So today I want to focus a little bit more on you men out there that are hurting. And I know that um, men hurt just as much as women hurt. And sometimes, we neglect to discuss these topics with men. There are a lot of you are good men out there, and I realize that there are a lot of good men. And today you may be hurting. You may be angry and trying to decide whether to leave your spouse or whether to stay with your spouse. Perhaps she's done the very thing that she shouldn't have done, and maybe she stepped out on you and you're disgusted, you're hurting, you think you can never forgive her. But if it comes down to a choice of you determining whether you want to forgive this person or whether or not you want to let her go. You have the option. If you're married to this person, then the Bible leaves space and room for you to give excuse me, to give your wife a writing of divorcement. But now we know the Bible also said that in the beginning with God, divorces weren't the thing that He desired for couples, but it said that for the hardness of our hearts, then Moses wrote and allowed for divorce. But with God, it wasn't so. But not to be so overly spiritual, but just to let you know that if you are married, you have to make a decision here whether or not to stay with your spouse. And I don't even know why I'm going here today, but I feel like this message needs to come across today to those men who are hurting and trying to come to a conclusion on what to do. Now, while you're deciding whether to leave or whether to stay, I want to point out to you that the most powerful type of love is a love that's called unconditional love, where you're able to forgive, you're able to put behind you those hurts and those pains. Now, unconditional love involves, I'll say this, it doesn't involve um, no pain. Pain is associated with it at some point, and that's an emotional type of pain. Now, if you're willing to bear the pain in this relationship, then forgiveness is going to be the next powerful thing that you can apply towards your aching heart. You don't want to do anything violent. It may take you separating for some time, or it may take you sitting down discussing the matter. Now, I don't know the extent of what you're going through with your spouse. I don't know if, sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes in relationships, people stray because they're not settled. They're not grounded in the Word of God. And because we are made flesh, people will tend to do things that are fleshy, especially when we're not rooted and grounded in the Word of God. So it's part of human nature, not nature just to say cheat or to go outside the marriage, but to do things that are sinful. The flesh is sinful. So again, here I'm not trying to justify these wrong acts, but I'm trying to get you to understand and see that there's room and there's hope for your marriage if you so desire to keep this marriage. So again, it comes down to you making a decision of whether you want to love this person. And let's just say, well, you are in love with this person. You don't want to let them go, but you're hurting. You just don't know what to do. Again, you need to take a moment to breathe. That means to take time out away from one another. Don't, I always say this, don't do anything crazy because it's not worth it. The best thing for you to do again is take some time away from your spouse. And if your spouse, and you are able to communicate, then communication is another powerful key to helping you to overcome the pain. And more than all that, prayer. I don't know what your relationship is with God or how you pray, but if you don't have a prayer life, it helps sometimes just to break away, to go in a quiet place and cry. They say men are not supposed to cry, but that's not true. We're all human and we all have some of the same, you know, we share the same pain. And so it's okay to cry. You don't have to cry in public, but go to a secret place and just cry it out. And remember that day by day brings healing. Time brings healing. It's not the end of the world. You can forgive. It's hard. But you can forgive if you so desire to forgive. If you feel like you can't do it, if you feel like you need help, then there's lots of counseling out there. Maybe find a friend who you can confide in to help you through the pain. But the thing you don't want to do is take revenge. Because the Bible clearly states that vengeance is mine. He says that I will repay. Now, when we say that, it sounds a little scary. We're not looking for God to go out and hurt somebody or to do wrong or mistreat or cause somebody to have an accident so that he can repay them the way we want it done. That's not love. So when you turn it over to God, what you're doing is saying, Father, I hurt, but I'm giving this to you. That means I'm going to pray every day to you and cry every day to you if I have to. And maybe you're the type of guy that says, well, you know what, I don't pray. I don't know how to pray. And I'm hurt, I'm mad, and I don't know how to pray. Point blank. Maybe it's time for you to learn how to pray, especially if you want to save your marriage. Again, it could have been a mistake, and if that's the case, your spouse is probably wanting to, make it right with you, but you have to allow them that opportunity. And when we think about it, who hasn't sinned? Who hasn't done wrong? Think about it. I'm sure there are things in your life that you may have done that you're not proud of. Maybe you didn't step out of the marriage, and God bless you for that. Continue to be faithful. But again, if you're in a relationship where you're not married, let's just discuss, those of you who are in a relationship and you've been in a relationship with a person for quite some time and it feels like you're married. If you're not married to an individual and they're cheating on you, what do you do? Again, it's the same thing. You determine whether you want to keep the relationship or not. People will say, well, you're crazy to stay in it. Maybe you are, but they're not you. That choice is solely left up to you. Unconditional love involves being in a relationship sometimes with people who are imperfect. Nobody is perfect. Unconditional love sees no wrong. In other words, it doesn't take into account the wrong that's done to it. It's hard, but it can be done. Unconditional love forgives. Unconditional love, it learns how to see and not see. And you're thinking, I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't take away my pain. And I'm not saying that it's going to take away your pain. I'm simply saying to you that there's a choice for you to make if you want to keep this relationship. And then ask yourself the question, is it worth keeping? Is it worth staying in? How long have you been dating this person? Is this person showing signs of making it right? Or are they constantly showing you pain? If the relationship is constantly showing you pain, then perhaps you need to step away from it. And I know I said that in the beginning of this that I was talking to men, but I guess if there are women who are listening, you could apply the same principle, determining whether you want to keep this relationship or not. Again, I just want to say that if you don't have a prayer life, if you don't know Jesus Christ, perhaps you should take an opportunity to learn how to pray and ask the Lord to come into your life, because you can't possibly get through this pain by yourself. And you think, I don't want to hear that spiritual stuff. Maybe you don't. I'm not going to try to force that on you. That's totally up to you. But for those of you who do believe in prayer, and maybe you don't have a relationship as of yet with the Lord, maybe this is an opportunity. Sometimes hurt will draw you to your knees. It'll make you bend where you don't want to bend. And the relationships that involve, unfaithfulness can be very hurtful for anybody. And I just want to, encourage you today to not give up. Don't take measures into your own hand. It's not worth it. But take time, get out, take a walk, take a jog, and let every day begin to heal you. One day at a time. Read a book. Go to a park. Spend time with a buddy. Don't go and get revenge, because you can go out and do that and put yourself at, greater harm and bringing in more problems is what you'll do. So be encouraged. And again, if you want to apply the principles of unconditional love, I just want to welcome you to the challenge. And peace be to you. Until next time. Goodbye.